Welcome back to Walker Guitar. My name's Corey. This lesson is on how to tune down a half step. Now you can apply this same idea to tune down a whole step. I've had several requests for this lesson, so I thought it was time to get started on it. And I always recommend using a tuner, especially if you're going to play with other musicians. But this is a nice tool if you don't have a tuner, and I'll actually give you some pointers with a tuner on how you want to go about maybe interpreting the tuner. It's challenging for me to do this video in that right because tuners are different and everybody has this or that, and I have what I have, so it's kind of hard to know. There's two different things to consider here. Is that if you have a little pocket tuner, the little handheld ones with the external microphone, or the jack that you plug in, the little battery powered ones, $20 or whatever they cost. Those are great, but the modes on them are different. Now some of them are what's called a chromatic tuner, or they might have a mode that's a chromatic mode, and I'm going to talk about that. And the alternative to that on that same tuner would be if there's like a little mode that as you toggle through your modes, you'll see little symbols on the LCD screen that look like a lowercase letter B. Now that's a flat symbol, if you see that. And if you see that, it will actually toggle the mode to tune flat. If you see one little symbol, that's going to be D flat. It's going to go, the whole guitar will be down a half step. So each of those little flat symbols is a half step. So most of those tuners, they go down 1, 2, some even have 3 that I've seen. Well, those little flat symbols will actually stack up as icons. So that will make your life very easy, because then you're just going to be tuning your guitar exactly the same way as you normally would, just using the tuner and making sure to toggle through that mode. Now if you don't have that mode and you have a chromatic style tuner, which is what I have in pedal on my pedal board in pedal format, you need to know a little bit more about the notes involved. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. Now this E string, if you take this note and you lower this E string down a half step, it takes a different name. Now it's going to either be be referred to by possibly 2 different things, and that depends kind of, I don't know, on the guys that programmed your tuner. It kind of depends. But the pitch itself has 2 different names. Now usually you'll see it as the logical choice, which is, from a tuner perspective, you're taking your guitar and you're trying to lower it, so it's going to take the same pitch name and add that little flat symbol next to it on probably the left side. And so in other words, this string would then be E flat. As you go through all your strings, and I'll give you the names now, you should have E flat, A flat, D flat, so we're just flatting everything, G flat, B flat, and another E flat. Now the problem though is that each of these notes has a another name, an enharmonic equivalent. So this E flat could also be referred to as D sharp. The A flat could also be referred to as G sharp. Your D flat could also be referred to as C sharp. Your G flat could also be referred to as F sharp. I had to think about that one. Your B flat here could also be referred to as A sharp. And then the top E string could also be D sharp as well. So you're going to have to get used to that a little bit. Very small amount of musicianship there to absorb. And if you do that, then you can apply just the same technique of tuning that you normally would. Use the tuner, be very accurate. You can give the string a little tug to set it into the slot if it feels like it's wobbling a little bit. I actually, when I change my strings, I take a pencil and I actually rub the pencil inside the slot of where the string sits before I tighten the string all the way. I'll pull it off of the nut and I'll put a little bit of pencil lead in there and some graphite, and then pull the string back over and then tighten it up, and that keeps the string from slipping around. But you always want to tune upwards into pitch. That's very important as well, because as you turn upwards into pitch, and I've talked about this before, but tuning upwards into pitch, you keep the string at tension all the time, and so that tension holds it in pitch and it won't slip outwards. It won't slip down out of pitch as you start to play. So those are just your basic tips. Now there's one other way that you can tune to E flat. For instance, if you don't have a tuner around, or maybe you're very uncomfortable using a tuner, but you have a good ear. Maybe you have another, like a musical background, and you have a great ear, but with guitar you're not super comfortable. Or you just want to figure out a song on YouTube or something like that and try to play along to it, and it happens to be down a half step in E flat. Now what I recommend you do for that is, like we did in our lesson with using strings with a reference pitch by fretting one string to tune an open string. We're going to do the same idea, but now it kind of works differently because we're trying to find a pitch that's lower than our lowest pitch, because we need to start on this string. This E needs to become E flat. So to do that, we have to find another E flat on the guitar, and the closest one is actually an E flat that's up an entire octave from the E flat we're trying to get to, which is at the sorry, it's actually at the you know, one of them days. It's at the 6th fret on the A string. So that note there, that's your E flat. The 7th fret is an E, so we want the 6th fret, that's an E flat. Now what you'll have to do is strum them both, so open E string, the A string at the 6th fret, and then use your ear and listen for that wobble that we talked about before. And the speed of the wobble, the faster it goes, the farther away you are. The more it slows down, the closer into pitch you're getting. Remember that. So if you're above it, it's still going to wobble. If you go underneath, it's going to wobble the same way. The pitch will be different, but the wobble that appears will be the same. Now keep in mind for this lesson, and I do apologize, but I've added distortion to my guitar signal because this microphone isn't picking up the attributes, the overtones of the tuning process the way I wanted, so I added a little distortion to make it more apparent that there's a wobble. You guys that use acoustic guitars will feel the wobble vibrate in the body of the guitar, which is awesome. Electric guys, not so much, but at home with your amplifier you will be able to hear this wobble. Now if you have trouble with this, you can add a small amount of distortion to your signal, and it'll bring this wobble out quite a bit. So now getting back to the lesson here, we're at the 6th fret on our A string, that's our E flat, and we have an open E string which has now been lowered to that same pitch an octave under, so now that is an E flat as well. Okay, so now we have a reference point. Now we can do the same principles we did with the lesson on tuning by fretting strings, and we'll do 5th fret of the E string, and then open A string, and that's how we're going to find our pitches. Now, in all honesty, tuning down to E flat is kind of a pain. Like what happens is you're releasing a lot of tension off of the guitar neck. So the guitar was, well, hopefully tuned in E, and there was an equilibrium between the neck and the body and just the tension of the strings. And what you're doing is now we're releasing all of this tension out, and the wood is going to respond to that, and it's going to start to move around. And so as we go through all of our strings, they're all getting kind of shuffled out of tune, even the reference pitch that we started with. And so by the time you get up to the top, you get back to the bottom and it's all kind of out of tune. It's quite difficult without using a tuner or a keyboard or some kind of absolute reference pitch to do this, because you will have to make a few passes through all of your strings to get them all to be nice and in tune, so the guitar itself is solid. Okay, but that's the general idea. So we're going to go through here. So we got 5th fret on the E string, gives us our open A. The same is true of the A string, and I'm going quickly because this is kind of ties in with the previous lesson that you guys should know, is that we do 5th fret on the A string. That'll give us our open D string. Okay. And you know, the guitar is a little finicky releasing the tension like this. It's just something you have to kind of do your best and then do a couple of passes. Okay, so then we have our reference pitch. The 5th fret on the D string should be the open G string pitch. So we're going to lower that one. Get the G string in pitch. Okay. So we got 5th fret, 5th fret, 5th fret. Now the G string and the B string, remember they're a major third apart, which is 4 frets, so you need to do the 4th fret on your 3rd string to find the reference pitch for your B. Whoops. And again, through all of this, the key is listening for that wobble. That's going to tell you how far away you are. This is like something, this lesson you could play to punish children. Just listening to somebody tune their guitar. Making the children cry. You know, and it's difficult anyway because I've noticed, especially, it just makes sense thinking about it, but I hear certain strings better than other strings. I hear, you know, the range of, usually the 2 middle strings are optimal for my hearing range, and I can tell a lot easier when those strings are in tune. It's harder for me to hear the low strings and the high strings. I think it's just out of my natural frequency range. So, you know, you guys might be dealing with some of that too as you go through this. And then the top string, the high E string is going to be found by doing your 5th fret on your B string, on your 2nd string. So to get that E to E flat, you just have to do that. This 5th fret here on the B string. Hey, what's happening? There we go. Okay. There you go. You could also use the low string. And then you want to go back through and do another pass. And there you go. It takes a little bit of work, but that's how you tune your guitar from E standard tuning to E flat standard tuning. Now if you wanted to go down a whole step from E, in other words from E to past E flat, or down to E double flat, but you'd call it D standard tuning, you can find a D pitch instead of at the 6th fret on the A string, and this string's now tuned differently, remember, so don't use that as like an audio reference pitch, but it would be at the 5th fret of your A string, and you would do the same trick where you would take that and you'd crank your E string down and get down to pitch, and then use that E string as a reference and 5th fret all the way back up. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson on how to tune down a half step. Send your requests to walkerguitar.com. Feel free to browse the site and the forum, check it out, and I will see you guys soon. So take care.